So with the release of every new Mortal Kombat game, people start talking about the characters for several different reasons. Who they're happy made it in, who they want as DLC, and who they main in the current game. MK11 did an especially fantastic job at making each character the best they've ever been. People playing this game love taunting with Shao Kahn, or punching the shit out of their opponent with Jax, and it made me think about when they do add DLC, how exactly will they continue to perfect these already classic characters? And then I remembered Sindel. Now Sindel is a classic character with a moderate fanbase and a decent amount of popularity, yet she didn't make the cut in this game, just like the previous entry. And then you start to look at all the games she's been in, and mostly it's just the ensemble games, the one that feature most of the characters to begin with. To understand why Sindel has been somewhat ignored in the series, we need to take a look back at her original appearance in Mortal Kombat 3. Now MK3 has always been one of the most charming and unique games in the series in my eye, due to how they handled the characters. You could play as robots, a speedster, nomad, striker, well, maybe not striker. We'll cover him in a later retrospective. The developers wanted to do as much as they could when it came to introducing new characters, and nowhere is this more apparent than with Sindel. Not only does Sindel appear on the arcade machine itself, but the game's story also heavily revolves around her. You see, Shao Kahn's always wanted to conquer Earthrealm, and thanks to Shang Tsung reviving her in Earthrealm, he can finally merge the realms, and this is because Sindel used to be his queen and they would destroy entire realms together. Now they're back together again, and it's up to the Earthrealm warriors to stop this crisis. So far, so good for Sindel. She's married to the most badass and deadly character in Mortal Kombat. However, it's here we come across the first few issues the character face. First of all, we have her ending. Now, you hear this premise for her character and you think her to be this evil queen overlord character, but when Sindel beats arcade mode, it's revealed that she wasn't really Shao Kahn's wife, but the wife of some guy named Jared. She was queen of Edenia and mother of Kitana, but eventually Shao Kahn conquered the realm, and her mind was manipulated into believing that Shao Kahn was her husband. It's kind of hard to take a villain seriously when not only are they not really a villain, but they were mind controlled the whole time. When that's the case, we don't really know the character all that much. Our second issue is, like I said before, she doesn't seem all that powerful. I mean, she's married to the boss of the game, and yet she's just a selectable character, unlike Motaro, who's just some random asshole. The final issue isn't necessarily with Sindel as a character, but the game of Mortal Kombat 3 did not really succeed at release. It only really found an audience with Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate and MK Trilogy, where so many other characters were there to choose from. So, okay, Sindel was off to a bit of a rocky start due to the developers not really deciding on who she is and the game of Mortal Kombat 3 not doing great. However, there's still room to improve on her, if only she showed up in the next couple of games. Mortal Kombat 4 and 5 had no characters from MK3 except Cyrax. Lucky robot bastard. Sindel finally returned in Mortal Kombat Deception, where they made it clear this game was all about bringing back the classic characters who hadn't really had a chance to shine before. Characters like Ermac, Tanya, Jade, Noob, and Smoke, and of course, Sindel.
For Deception, our goal was to really say, let's bring back the nostalgic characters, and obviously Sindel, Nightwolf, Baraka, Melina, all of those are in that category, and so we had to bring them back.
But in this game, Sindel had hardly anything to do, and bringing back so many classic characters, they didn't really have time to develop any of them. She makes it clear she's a peaceful queen of Edenia, but okay, where does she go from there?
I am Queen Sindel. I am grateful that you risked your life to free me. I owe you my thanks.
It is an honor, Your Highness.
So, Sindel unfortunately spent the rest of the classic timeline as a boring nothing character that they could really certainly do better with in the new timeline they set up in Mortal Kombat 9. And they really did give her a much bigger impact. A bit too much impact, you see. After Shang Tsung is absorbed into her soul, she goes and kills all the main characters. This comes out of completely nowhere, as Sindel had zero development or build-up throughout the whole story mode, aside from Raiden getting a slight headache about her. From this point, all the main heroes are now Revenants, and although she was the reason they are Revenants in the first place, she seems to be just another pawn for Quan Chi, Shinnok, and Liu Kang throughout all of MKX. It seems like in both timelines they're interested in what she does rather than who she is. Like, she's been around since Mortal Kombat 3, and I can't tell you her personality whatsoever. Finally, we reach Mortal Kombat 11 when she is just not there. She's not the only one missing, no doubt. There's still like Nightwolf and Stryker who were missing as well, but it's still odd how a character they built up as such a huge threat was just forgotten about. So, there's the history of Sindel, and I think I see all the issues here. At first, they wanted a queen worthy of Shao Kahn who would use devastating moves to get her way, but then they forged a character who's nothing but a good leader. Maybe that's why she hasn't done much since MK9. They just don't know what to do with her. They don't know how to appease her fans. What are the fans of Sindel like? Do they like her as a all-loving queen or a completely destructive overlord. So, what exactly can be done for Sindel? Personally, I think they simply need to make up their minds. Sure, her past is very mixed, but as long as they make a definitive choice for her, I think it could stick. Now, we all have our preferences, whether or not she'd be a good guy or a bad guy. But I don't think that really matters in the end. They just need to come to a decision. I mean, think about Noob Saibot in MK11, for example. He wasn't always the edgelord he is now, but people love him for it now, just because it's a defined character. They need to make Sindel a defined character in this game, and that's exactly why I want her as DLC. Make it happen, Ed Boon.